श्रीमान् वेंकटनाथार्यः कवितार्किककेसरी वेदान्ताचार्यवर्यो मे सन्निधत्तां सदा हृदि सन्तश्रीरङ्गपृथ्वीश चरणत्राणशेखराः जयन्ति भवनत्राणपदपङ्कजरेणवः रामानुजदयापात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकम्। So let us take the first verse for recitation. Vande tad radnganathasya manyam padukayor yugam unnatanam avanatir natanam yatra chornatihi. So we are looking at verse number 13 and 14 yesterday, and also 15. So you find from the 8th verse of this Prabhava Paddhati of the 3rd chapter of Sri Padukasahasram, we understand the Archaka, the Bhattacharya of the temple of Sri Ranganatha, goes in. It is the 8th verse. Then he opens the door by relieving the latch, and then he enjoys the beautiful aroma from the sanctum sanctorum. Then he worships the divine feet and divine sandals, keeps the shatari on his head, and then he is about to start his Thirunarayanan by the collection of materials. So this is what we have been seeing up to 15. Now, so the 16th we are reading. Padasarasijam etat paduke rangabhattuhu pratinidhi badavim te gahate shrena bhumna tadidam aparatha chet tishtatas tasya nityam kathamiva viditatthas tvam bhajante mahantaha. So he is addressing the sandals again. So Rangabhartuhu Paduke. O divine sandals of Sri Ranganatha, Rangabhartuhu. Bharta, master, Ranga, the stage or the place, the whole world as it is. So Rangabhartuhu Paduke. So Etat Padasarasijam. The divine lotus-like feet of Sri Ranganatha happen to be Pratinidhi Padavim, the representative of the divine sandals. And the divine sandals have got the natural greatness as the divine feet of Sri Ranganatha, and that we understand because of the scriptural sentences. Gahate svena bhumna. Now, if Vedantadeshika says, what his statement, if it is not true, taditam aparatha chet tishtatas tasya nityam. So, if the statement of Vedantadeshika is false, then how do we understand that great people, mahantaha bhajante katham? So all great people adore the divine sandals. Tvam viditarthaha kathamiva. Having understood the meanings of the scriptural sentences which adore the divine sandals, along with the divine feet of Lord Almighty, then how could they always resort to such adoration? if my statement is not true. So, who is representative of whom? When you say it is the divine feet that represents the divine sandals. It's not the other way. That means the divine sandals are now more popular, more famous, more adored than the divine feet of Ranganatha. As we understand, the sandals always protect the feet. So this is just for our understanding that Swami Vedantadeshika used this idea in the 16th verse. Let me recite for the sake of participants. Padasarasi jame tat paduke ranga bhattu pratinidhi padavinte gaghate svena bhumna tadidam aparatha chet tishtatastasya nityam kathamiva viditarthastvam bhajante mahantaha. We go to the 17th verse. Shruti shirasi nigudham karmana choditanam tat avadhi vinivesham na adhikantum shamanam parihasati murarehe paduke balishanam pashuvadha parisheshan pandito namayajnam. He gives a little negative statement that if the greatness of the divine sandals is not understood, then people will be what we call the beginners of the study of scriptures. So in the Upanishads part, namely the last part of the Upanishad scriptures, Shruti Shirasi Nigudham, the greatness explained in the last part of the scriptures, namely Upanishads, is hidden. And they recommend a lot of activities for Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. So there are people who start from the scratch the study of scriptures. They will not be able to get a full picture of the greatness of the divine sandals. And what happens is, they will perform the activities as mentioned in the scriptures, but they will be only facial, superficial, and therefore a scholar who understands deeply the scriptures, He Paduke, Murare He Paduke, Murare He Paduke. Somebody was asking, some participant was asking about why Sharingena Paduke. Now you find that the word Murare Paduke. Murare was the demon in the form of drum, a tabor, who was to be killed by Lord Vishnu. So Mura Arihi, Murasya Arihi, Murarihi. So Murare He Paduke. The divine sandals of the enemy of demon, namely Mura, meaning Sriman Narayana or Sri Ranganatha here. So a great scholar, Panditaha, Parihasati, he makes fun of an activity like a sacrifice as mentioned in the scriptures as mere sacrifice of the living being, what you call Pashu. Pashu is called what you call a living being like a goat, which is to be sacrificed at the yaga, like Soma Yaga. So Soma Yaga is done for 5 days, and 5 goats are sacrificed. And you find the mantras, the spells in the scriptural sentences, which make the Pashu, rather victim, we say, the Bali, attuned to the sacrifice. When it is seen that any animal is taken to a butcher's shop, it opposes vehemently, stoutly, and it cries. Whereas when you bring a young goat and keeps it in when it is kept in the sacrificial place, the mantras which are uttered in the sacrifice will make it calm, and the rope around its neck will be removed. The goat will be standing there without moving out. So what happens if the sacrifice is done without devotion? Then it amounts to the sacrifice of an animal like goat. So it will be useless, and it will be not effective, because we are not concentrating and by doing the sacrifice with the devotion. So Murare Paduke Panditaha Parihasati, it is for the sake of, for name's sake, they are sacrifices. So we are expected to understand and study the scriptural sentences where the divine feet are adored and divine sandals are always associated with the divine feet. And therefore, this is also what we call our worship at home and our worship at the temple are also called the yajnam, the sacrifice. Now you can also even call the study of Padukasahasram as a yajnam to understand the greatness of the divine Son. So we go to so you understand that in this particular verse, the inner meaning will be the priest in the temple is now ready to offer the shatari and place it on the head of the devotees. So janaitum janaitum alamargham daityajit padarakshe namati mahati deve nakasindhor vishirnaha muhuhu ahipati shuda mauli ratna abhighatat parinata laghimana pathasam urmayaste. Now, the inner meaning of this particular 18th verse in the Prabhava Paddhati of the 3rd chapter denotes that now the Thiruvaradhanam, the puja, is started by the priest in the temple, and when he starts it, he gives the Ashtaksharas, 8-syllable spell, or here in this temple, Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He says, repeats it every time, and he prepares the vessels for Argyam, offering water, Padhyam, offering water for washing the divine feet, Achamaniyam, offering water for sipping, and Argyam, Padhyam, Achamaniyam, and also Snaniyam, for the sake of taking bath. So we anoint the Lord by using the vessel of water which has been prepared for Snaniyam. So we add the cardamom pieces, we add basil leaf, tulasi, and we also add some rather sweet-smelling unguent in the water. Then we prepare them, and the priest places his hand on the vessel of Argyam, and he says, Argyam parikalpayami. He says the mantra again and again, and then Argyam patram, Arghya patram parikalpayami. Now, Swami Vedantadeshika is addressing the divine sandals. Daitya Jitpada Rakshe. So, now the adjective given to Ranganatha is one who is victor of the demons. Daitya Jit, Daityanam Jeta, Daitya Jit. So his divine sandals, Pada Rakshe. So again another adjective is given. Previously we saw the word Murarehe in 17. So we saw earlier Sharnginaha in the earlier verse. Therefore, so now we understand. So the priest is ready to offer the Arghyam. Arghyam is water for washing the divine hands. So Janaitum Alam Arghyam. So this is the process. So in order to keep ready the vessel for the puja of Sri Ranganatha, so what does he do? Namati. So he bows down. He prostrates before the Lord. Namati. Then Mahati Deve. Now the priest salutes. Then you find that Lord Shiva is also there present. Mahadevaha. Mahati Deve. So Lord Shiva is also available at all times, ready to worship Lord Ranganatha. So when he is along with the priest, salutes the god Ranganatha on the divine feet and on the divine sandals. So what happens? So he bows his head, he lowers down his head. Lord Shiva lowers down his head, and the Ganges river on his head, which flows normally heavily, Nakasindho, Nakasindho, Pathasam Urmayaha, Vishirnaha. So Nakasindho, Naka is heaven, so heavenly Ganges, Sindhu, the river. So Sindhu also can mean ocean in abbreviation. So here it is river. So Nakasindho, the river, heavenly river, namely the Ganges, Mandakini, its waves, Pathasam Urmayaha, Urmayaha, the waves, Pathasam of the water, the holy water of the Ganges, they scatter by falling onto the gems on the heads of the snakes, which he also gets adorned with. So there are snakes also on his neck. So in the hoods of the snakes, there are gems. So the water drops fall on the gems. And then what happens? They get scattered. Vishirna, they become soft drops of water. So as the priest offers the water for washing hands called Arghyam, Arghym, to the divine frame of Sri Ranganatha's divine feet and divine sandals. So the water drops, they fall down softly on the divine sandals. Muhuhu, again and again. That means Lord Shiva is also interested in, just like the priest, in doing puja many times a day. So Muhuhu again, Ahipati, the lord of snakes. And also you can also include Adishesha, whose heads are there in the lying posts as a bed over the head of Sri Ranganatha. So Ahipati Chuda Mauli, on the topmost portion of the snake's hoods, Ratna Abhighatat, when the water drops from the holy Ganges of heaven, from the head of Lord Shiva, dash against the gems, Parinata Laghimanaha, Pathasam Urmayaste, Urmayahate. So, the divine sandals. So, you are now given argyam, that is water for cleaning. So parinata laghimanaha, they become very soft. So that means the devotion is more seen by not with the gushing water of, rather flooding water of the Ganges, but the argyam is to be offered gently to the Lord. As all of us know that when you do archana, the worship of the Lord with flowers, so we don't throw the flowers very fast or dashing against the idol or the divine feet, but we softly, respectfully offer them with hands and make them fall down at the divine feet or the divine sandals. So, just for recitation, Janaitu malamargyam daityajit padarakshe namati mahati deve nakasindhor vishirna muhurakipati chuda mauli ratna vighatat parinata laghimana pathasa murmayaste. So we go to 19. So pada sarasijayoho tvam paduke rangabhartuhu manasi munijananam maulibhage shrutinam. Class lakamba apram besa. So manasi munijananam maulibhage shrutinam vachasi cha sukavinam vartase nityam ekam tat idam avagatam te shashvatam vaishwarupyam. Now we understand that Lord is in the universal form. How do you understand? By looking at the first two words of this Vishnu Sahasranamam, you find Vishwam, Vishnuhu. So Vishnuhu, the word, denotes that Antar Bahishchatat Sarvam Vyapya Narayana Sthitaha. As the scripture says, he is inside and outside everything. So he pervades the whole universe. Vishwam, Vishwam, Vishnu. There are two words. That means Lord is in the universal form. That means he pervades everything, he occupies every place, every rather atom, molecule, proton, electron and neutron. So everywhere he is available. So Sarvatra Bhagavan Asti. And therefore, in the same way, the Paduka also, the divine sandals also get the same form, namely Vishwarupam. And therefore, Vaishwarupyam. You would have heard about in Mahabharata that Lord Krishna, as an incarnation, showed his Vishwarupam to many, to Arjuna, to Karna, to Dhritarashtra, who was even without vision, and many others. And therefore, the Vishwarupam is also another auspicious characteristic of the divine sandals. The divine universal form of Sri Mahavishnu is seen only on some occasions, whereas Paduka's universal form is Shashvatam Vaishwarupyam, is permanent, seen forever. So how do you understand that Paduka has got Vaishwarupyam, the Vishwarupam, the universal form? So example is given in the second quarter and the third quarter. So Pada Sarasujayoho Tvam Paduke Rangabhartuhu. Again you see that Vedantadeshika addresses the sandals. Hey Paduke, Rangabhartuhu Paduke. O divine sandals of Ranganatha, who are attached to Pada Sarasujayoho, the lotus-like pair of feet. Pada Sarasujayoho, Sarasijaha. Sarasijam is lotus. Saras, lake, Sarasijam, born in lotus. So Sarasijayoho, Pada Sarasijayoho. The divine feet, I remind all of us that they are bright, they are beautiful, they are soft, they are tender, they are cool, and so on. So this Paduka is attached ever to Padasarasi Jayoho. So again, Shashwatam. Shashwatam, so the divine sandals are ever associated with the divine feet of Ranganatha, which are like the lotus. And what happens? Where are they available? The Paduka. Manasi Muni Jana Anam. So all sages adore the Paduka. So they are in the mind. Muni Jananam Manasi meaning they are in the scriptures. Because all the sages by intuition, they got the scriptures from the exhaling air of the nostrils of Lord Sriman Narayana. And therefore, the sages have mastered the scriptures and they always hold in their mind the memory of the divine sandals. Therefore, Manasi Munijana Anam. You can, in other words, say they remember the scriptural sentences and therefore they always hold in high esteem the divine sandals along with the divine feet of Lord Sriman Narayan. Mauli Bhage Shruti Nam. So since they have mastered scriptures, they have understood the meaning and the greatness of these divine sandals. And you find in the Upanishad part of the scriptures, the first part being Samhita, the second part being Brahmanam, third part being Aranyakam, and the fourth and last part being Upanishad. So Mauli Bhag Shruti Nam. So in the topmost portion, as considered, Upanishads are considered to be the topmost portion. That is because the Upanishads belong to the division called, the major category called Jnana Kandam. So we get wisdom by reading the Upanishads. We get the knowledge of performance of sacrifices by the other three portions, Samhita, Brahmanam, and Aranyaka. Yajna Prakriya is there. So the process of the sacrifice has been mentioned elaborately in all the three parts of the scriptures, and we call them Karma Kanda. Therefore, Mauli Bhage Shruti Hinam. So the greatness of the divine sandals along with the divine feet is understood by reading the Upanishads of the scriptures. Vachasi Chasukavi Hinam. There are poets, there are good poets, there are the best poets. Who are the best poets referred to here? They are what we call the 12 apostles of Sri Vaishnava philosophy, called Alvars in Tamil. So those who have delved deep into the ocean of devotion of on Sri Ranganatha's divine sandals and divine feet. So Sukavi, Vedantadeshika indirectly refers to the best poetry, namely the 4,000 Tamil Divya Prabandhas. So Vachasicha. So on the words of, so now we can understand Vartase Ekad Tvam Nityam. Shashwatam is used, again Nityam is used. Nityam also means ever. It also sometimes we mean it as daily. So Tvam Eka Nityam Vartase. O sandals, divine sandals, you remain ever in the three places. Number one, the minds of the sages, good sages. The last part of, rather called Jnana Kandam, namely the Upanishads of the scriptures. 2. 3. In the words of 4,000 Divya Prabandhas of the 12 apostles of Sri Vaishnava philosophy, Alvars. So we have got a lot of preceptors also. Natha Muni has written a book called Nigama Parimalam. And we also have heard about Yoga Ragasyam of Nathamuni. Yamunacharya wrote Stotra Ratnam, Gitartha Sangraha, Siddhitrayam, and so on. So many other works are also there. And Ramanujacharya wrote 9 verses in Sanskrit. Gadyatrayam, Sriranga Gadyam, Sharanagati Gadyam, and Sri Vaikuntha Gadyam in prose. He wrote Vedanta Saraha, Vedanta Saram, Vedanta Deepam, then Sri Bhashyam, then Vedartha Sangraha, and so on. So in all these books, you find that the greatness of the divine feet is adored. So therefore, therefore, the last line, therefore, idam avagatam. So this is understood that te shashvatam vaishwarupyam. Your universal form is permanent. It can be experienced by looking at these 3 situations. So we go to number 20. So parisara vinatanam murdhini durvarna panktim. Let me recite the 19 one. Padasarisi jayostam paduke rangabhartuhu. You can also add the sandhi here. Padasarisi jayostam paduke rangabhartur manasi munijananam maulibhage shrutinam vachasi cha sukavinam vartate nityameka tadidam avagatante shashvatam vaishwarupyam. So we go to verse number 20. So parisara vinatanam murdhni durvarna panktim parinamayasi shaure paduke tvam suvarnam guhaka jana vidure satpathe labdhavritte kvanu khalu viditaste kopyasau dhatuvaraha. Now there are people, devotees, who come together to visit the temple and worship the Lord with his divine sandals and divine feet. And therefore they are ready, waiting for the priest. Now the Aradhana, the Thiruvaradhanam is over. The puja is over for the morning. And it is also done in the evening. So the devotees also come in the evening also. So especially people from Srirangam itself, they frequent the temple. They sometimes, as it is said earlier, kolahalam. So they make a noise. They push others also. Even though people from out of Srirangam reach the temple in time, they are not allowed to go near the Lord because of the competitive devotion of Sri Ranganatha. Sri Ranganatha's divine sandals and divine feet are great attractions that they lose their minds and they push each other. So parisara vinatanam. So people are ready to bow their heads to receive the shatari on their head, murdhni. So why do they come to the temple? Generally, we have an idea that those who are in trouble will come to the temple more frequently than others. So what happens is, we say in Tamil, Thalai Ezhuthu, the Brahma Lipi, the writing of Lord Brahma on the head of on the brain of the people. So we call it what we call fate's writing and so on. Vidhi we say in Sanskrit. And vidhi here meaning negative fate. So we see that there are some letters which written by Brahma on our head based on our previous births, good actions and bad actions. So there will be good words also make us happy, which make us happy. So our fate is the result of our own actions, and even God is not ready to change them. Whereas now what happens to the divine sandals? So Durvarna Panktim, Varna letter, Varnamala we say, Aksharabhyasa, when you read Sanskrit for the first time, when you read the alphabets, we call it Varnamala. So Varna letter, so Durvarna, bad letters, in the sense there'll be some negative points written in the head, so that we are supposed to suffer because of those bad letters. So Durvarna Panktim, Pankti the row. There is a row of bad letters. In Sanskrit, Durvarnam also means silver, the silver metal, Velli. So Durvarna Panktim. So it looks as though they are very bright, conspicuously seen, prominently noted. So what happens? Tvam parinamayasi. You change. He Paduke. He Shaure He Paduke. Shaurihi. Shauri Rajaha is the name of the Lord. So Shauri, he comes from Shura. Shurasya idam, I am Shauri. So he is a hero. He is the best conqueror, the highest victor. And therefore, Shaurehe Paduke. Oh, divine sandals of Lord Shauri. Parinamayasi, Tvam Parinamayasi. You change. So you change the silver letters to Suvarnam, the bad letters to good letters. Durvarna becomes Suvarna. Swarnam, Suvarnam, Hemam, Kanakam, Kanchanam, Jambunadam, Chamikaram. So many words for gold in Sanskrit. So Suvarnam. So Suvarnam, Durvarnam becomes Suvarnam. So the bad letters have become good letters. In the sense, the silver has become gold. Why? Because he is now imagining or giving a what we call poetic fancy, that how do you know te viditaha, konukhalu te viditaha? Where did you get the knowledge? Where from did you receive the instructions? How to make alchemy? That is kopyasau dhatuvadaha. You have made the alchemy, rather what you call dhatuvadaha, what you call rasavada vidya. Skill of conversion of silver to gold, or even the copper to gold. So there were people, maybe there are people even today who can convert copper to gold. There's a chemical process by which the copper can be converted into pure gold. So here, he is astonished. Swami Vedantadeshika is surprised to see that all those devotees who come to the temple and receive on their head the shatari, namely the divine sandals, as soon as they receive the divine sandals on their head, so what happens is their fate, the negative fate goes off, and they become prosperous, they become happier in life, and they lead their life very happily after getting the blessings of the divine sandals. So now how does it happen? Because the divine sandals are ever attached to good actions. So the divine sandals always follow the right path, just like the divine feet of Ranganatha, or just like the very activities of Sri Ranganatha as God in any form, Para, Vyuha, Vibhava, Antaryami, and Archa. So here it is Archa. So Satpathe, when he is on the good path, so the Padukas, the divine sandals are on good path. So Labdha Vrittehe, having got the inclination to follow the right path, Kuhaka Janavidure, far away from cunning people. Kuhaka Janaha meaning cunning person. So Kuhaka Jana Vidure, they are far away from the cunningness. Nowhere the divine sandals will attach themselves to the cunningness. So there is no cunningness available in the Lord also. Vanchakam. So even in Krishna Avatara, we see that the child Krishna or the adult Krishna, he is not cunning. But sometimes we wrongly understand that he seems to be cunning, and the rule is shate shatyam. When you meet with a rogue, with a wicked person, then you have to use violence to the wicked person. Therefore, shate shatyam, meaning cunningness will be rebutted with cunningness. But it doesn't, it's not a policy to be followed by the Lord. So, because Lord Ranganatha is pure in character, so also the divine feet of Ranganatha, so also the divine sandals of Ranganatha. So, Kuhaga Janavidure, they are far away. The divine sandals are far away from cunningness. And now Vedantadeshika is asking the question, Kvanukhalu viditaste, how did you know? This is alchemy, Rasavada Vidya. Gopyasau Dhatuvadaha. The basic mineral, the component, the fundamental component has been changed from silver to gold. How did we do it? So the devotees who come to the temple and worship and get the satari on their head get relieved of their sufferings. They become happy in life and they go back peacefully to their places. So let me give you time for 5 minutes for discussion, and let me say the last verse of Swami Deshika's Padukasahasram. So here we want to say Jayati Yetiraja Sukti Jayati Mukundasya Paduka Yugali Tadubhayadhana Trivedi Avandhayanto Jayanti Bhuvi Santaha Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha. Can add your views? If you want me to stop the sharing the screen, I shall stop. I think I was a few minutes late to the class. So thanks to all of your attendance and listening, presence. Tamil Alagi, G. Rajalakshmi, Annapurni as usual, Mohan Parsadi Swami, Meenakshi, Padma Parsadi, Prabha Sheshagiri, Radhika Vallabhadas. Then you have Shubhashri, Sujata Tripurnani, Vijaya Hetirajan, Vishalakshi Ramani, Silata, Shankarapuram Sripriya, and so on. Happy to note that all listen to the Padukasahasram meaning. Jayanti Sridhar, of course, regular attendee. Yeah, Riti Sweetman, go ahead. Let me give you the free. Yeah. We can talk now.
Dhanyavadas, namaskaram cha.
Yes.
That is as the best I can do for Sanskritam Kathopakatham. But yesterday I checked up. I missed. It was my bad luck. I missed your lecture. But then I was checking up on Ranganatham Mandiram. Now I found lots of negative aspects of travelers. The bhaktas have found it difficult to get in. And as you say, everybody is racing to get there, to get the sharka on the head.
Right.
And so it is not easy. And then the Brahmins make it even more difficult by demanding lots of money. Now, this is the same experience I have in Jagannath temple.
Right.
One priest actually called me a beggar because I didn't give enough money that he expected. So I told him, we are all beggars in the land, in front of Lord, we are all beggars. There's no money. That you want more money. I can't give you as much money as you want. And it is for your satisfaction. So these are, this is what will prevent visitors who are anxious to have the blessings of the Lord. If those who are in charge act so negatively towards the visitors and bhaktas.
Today, we are fighting against the government for cancelling the department called HR&CE, Hindu Religious Endowment Department, which is governing, unfortunately, rather mismanaging the affairs of the temples. And recently in Srirangam, there were 50 rupees denomination ticket and 250 rupees denomination ticket. And since 250 seems to be high for costly for many people. Sorry.
Vina Venkatesham Nanatho Nanath Sada Venkatesham Smarami Hare Venkatesham Prasida Priyam Venkatesham Right.
Na class la irken, 5 நிமிஷம் கழிச்சு பேசுறேன். So sorry, the 250 rupees denomination ticket has been reduced to 100 and 50 has been raised to 100. So these are all certain things which are to be expunged. Remarks should be expunged from the video here, the recording. And the government is an atheist government, and therefore we are fighting with it. And as you said, the devotees do not get right opportunity to have long time worship in the temple, right?
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Right. So let's meet in the next session. So let me stop sharing. Right. Mohan Parsari Swami, the temples are under the siege of the government, yes. Unfortunately, in the hands of a non-believing government. And we have voted them to power. That is our mistake. So thanks. We will meet the next session.